Actors, we've all got issues, so let's talk about them. I'm Juan Ayala, and welcome to Actors with Issues. Each week, we bring you interviews with actors from across TV, film, and Broadway, taking many deep dives into their careers and getting into the successes, the struggles, and of course, the issues that they face as actors. That's enough about us. Let's dive into the episode. Today's guest is a young actor whose most recent role was in the chilling docuseries on Netflix, Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer Story. Please welcome to the stage, Brayden Maniago. Brayden, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
First, thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
So before we dive into our interviews, we always start with a quick rapid fire game to kick things off. We always start with an easy question: coffee or tea?
Coffee or tea? Definitely tea. Not really a big coffee person. It's a little too bitter. A little too bitter.
As I have my giant coffee right here.
Oh no. Well, is it Sweden? Is that one Sweden?
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, then I
do
could
just
I could probably drink that. I can probably drink.
Yeah. Film or TV?
Film for sure. 100%
Drama or comedy?
Drama.
Hero or villain?
Villain.
Stage acting or screen acting?
I'll go for screen acting this time.
What actors had the biggest influence on you?
Actress, Viola Davis.
What was the last show that you binge watched?
Last show, I think it was Stranger Things. Yeah.
What was your first acting job?
Dahmer. Well, biggest one, yeah, Dahmer for sure.
If you could have lunch with any actor, dead or alive, who would it be?
Marlon Brando.
Dude, that's a common answer.
Yeah, right? I mean, like, who wouldn't want to?
Yeah. What movie never fails to make you laugh?
Never fails to make me laugh. This isn't really a comedy, but Whiplash.
There's some good yeah, I get that.
Right? Like J.K. Simmons, bro. I'm just like
yeah. You're almost like laughing at how like cringy some parts are. You're like, oh,
right. You're like, wow, that's intense. But
yeah. That's one way to teach someone how to drum.
Exactly.
And what movie never fails to make you cry?
Probably La La Land.
Good choice.
For some reason, I don't know. Just something about that one. Yeah. I
think
you know who my favorite director movie.
Is. And lastly, describe your most memorable audition in 3 words. And memorable can be good or bad, so it's up to you.
Most memorable. Okay, I'll probably go with the Pixar one. I can't really say too much about it with 3 words. Probably daunting, charming, and scary.
Awesome. Is this something you were like booked and can't talk about, or is it something that
it's just I signed an NDA, so I can't exactly say what it's
got
about.
Got it. No wonder. No problem. I have a feeling I like, just from your description, I might know what it is. I was at D23, so I like saw all the big announcements and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, we won't get into it. You signed things. Yeah. Don't get you trouble.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. So with this role in Dahmer, it was your first role in a scripted series on television, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was your experience working on the show, especially as a recurring character? Usually first jobs are like a one and done, but with this one you got to do several episodes. So what was your experience like as the character and working on set?
Right. So, okay, I'm gonna tell a little story. So the first day I filmed, I actually graduated high school. Like literally the night of.
No way.
The night of, yeah. So it was funny because I also missed graduation rehearsal. So while everyone was like, Brayden, where are you? Blah, blah, blah. I was like at a fitting. And this is one of my first fittings ever. So I was like, what's going on? Because, you know, it's for with Evan Peters and Ryan Murphy. And I was like, this is crazy. So then the day of graduation comes, right? And everyone's like, Brayden, why are you so quiet? Because, you know, I have a lot of energy, like really, I don't know what the word is, but I'm just like, you know, really out there. And I'm just like, you know, I'm just really sad. I'm so sad I can't see you guys. But all I'm thinking about is showing up on set and trying to, because, you know, I want to use my time to prepare as much as I can. And so that exact day, I'm filming with Evan Peters, with the scene where I'm like kind of walking away from him, where he drugs me. And that was definitely one of the craziest experiences of my life, because I go on the shuttle and I meet Jen Lynch, who is David Lynch's daughter. And I'm like, wow, this is absurd. I'm like, I had no idea. I was like, oh, this is her. I've watched her work for a while now. And then, so then I go in the house, and then I see Evan Peters, and then he's full on in character, just as Jeffrey Dahmer. And I'm like, wow. So my entire mindset the whole time is just trying to learn from him and Jen Lynch as much as I can. And one thing that was really signature about that night was Evan Peters was like, "Hey, can I watch the footage we just filmed?" I had no idea you can do that. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but I had no idea you can just be like, "Hey, can I watch like what we just did?" I thought that was just like, because as an actor, it's like a mental thing,
Yeah.
You're not really focused about what you look like or about all these things. And I had no idea that you could just be like, "Hey, can I just watch the footage?" So yeah, that was the first night, the day I graduated. And then continuing on, the third or second day I showed up on set, I met the Lau family. And, as an Asian actor, it's really nice to have a place where you don't feel like the minority.
Mm.
It feels like this place where you can just like, hey, like, uh, like the dinners we have with our family, because, I talk to other people and they don't really understand what I'm saying. So I talk about my culture, and Southeast Asians, they all like root from the same type of place and same type of like area, I guess. And I played a Laotian boy, who's a real person, which I'll touch on that in a bit. And yeah, so that part on Beyond Set was just really nice to feel, because I never really felt that way.
And with you playing a real person, all of this being based on real events, what was your prep process like? Where did you have to do like a lot of research? Did you watch the trial? Like, what did you have access to?
So that was really interesting. I looked up who this character was when I auditioned for it, which is interesting. I auditioned for three of the brothers, which is funny because both of them are like way older than I look, in my opinion. So of course I got Somsak. um, but so I look up Somsak Symphysimpone, and I'm like, there's nothing about this guy, like at all. And I'm pretty sure I know why. They just want to keep their life private, which is totally understandable.
Yeah.
Um, so the most research I could do is actually about the boy who did die, who was Conrad. And in that way, I had to somehow substitute, I guess is the right word for that. I had to substitute Conrad, as a real life person I know. And I have like little cousins who I love like and adore very much. I kind of imagine like, okay, what have that been like? And because if I don't know what Somsak, I think I only found one piece of footage of Somsak, which was at a trial.
Mhm.
And that was it, like literally nothing else. And I just found details of, oh, Somsak got raped by Jeffrey Dahmer and all these things. And I was like, okay, that's all I know about this guy. I don't know anything else. And I tried like asking people around, like, do you know this guy? And I'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, so my research and prep was mostly, which was interesting, just me. Like it was mostly just, analyzing the script. What can I do to fully connect to this character? And then, as you asked, I did watch the trial many, many times
Mm.
because I wanted to be, scared of Jeffrey Dahmer to a certain extent. And of course, I already was as soon as I looked him up, because I didn't know who Jeffrey Dahmer was before the audition. So
Mm.
I looked up, which is honestly, it still kind of scares me to this day. But I looked up the crime pictures, and that really sparked something in me. I don't know how it could spark something in someone.
Yeah.
It's very very intense, I guess is the best word to say. Um, and it was, yeah, so it was actually a lot of inner work. I had to really search within myself more than, which is interesting, not really search for another real life person.
And with the role, did you feel there were any, I mean, besides just like the emotionally draining part of the role and the case and the whole story, for you as an actor, were there any particular challenges that came up?
Interesting. I guess that was the hard part, because it kind of felt like I had to do something right. And I've never, well, I have for sure, but not like truly, truly felt like doing something right. Um, since most of these events actually did happen, it almost felt
Mm.
like I had to copy those events to a certain extent, but I didn't even know what those events were. And that can get to your head for sure. Just being like, hey, how can I do this perfectly? How can I do this right? How can I copy this exact event and make it word per word, action per action? Like it's almost like choreography that you want to do perfectly, right? And I guess that was the hardest part because that's gonna mess you up when you're on set
Mm-hmm.
because that's all you're thinking about. You're not being present in the moment. You're not reacting to the other person. The whole time you're just in your head. You're like, okay, uh, I'm this character and I'm gonna say it like how Samsak would say it, But there was this one scene which it got deleted, I'm pretty sure, because yeah, things happen post production.
Mm-hmm.
But after like 5 takes, I was like, I'm so in my head right now. And the director realized. She told me, she was like, "Hey, you need to just relax, be present." I was like, "Okay." And I got present. And I realized it's not about trying to be perfect as Samsak. If you are just exactly present, like as you prepared yourself to be, then you'll get there. Trying to reach somewhere where you can't physically be, like trying to force it, won't let you get there. That's not possible.
And just to go back a little bit, as far as your audition, you did say that you auditioned for some of the other brothers who were older, which I feel like sometimes is a little bit common if there's like a group of similar characters. It's like, okay, just read both parts and then they sort of whittle it down from there. But what was your whole audition process like? Did you have like multiple callbacks or was it a little bit simpler?
So I got an audition from my I think this was during pandemic. Yeah. Well, I guess we still have a pandemic, but this is 2021. This was 2021. Um, this is really interesting because there's a lot of auditions I get where I'm like, okay, I'll do it, Like, I'll do it to get it done. Um, but I got these sides and I was reading through it and something about it just felt so like passionate. I don't really know how to describe it other than just like something about it just felt so like perfect. I don't know. Um, so I auditioned for it and I was like, even if I don't get this, I'm just happy I was able to audition for this. Um, and then a few weeks later, I got a call back. Um, and I thought it was going to be a Zoom callback, but it actually wasn't Zoom. So again, this is all just self tapes. This is all virtual and all those things. Um, but I do get a callback, but this one isn't through Zoom. It's another self tape, which is very interesting. I never thought that was the thing, like where you do a callback, where it's another self tape. But they give me a different pair of sides. So I think I got 2 or 3 scenes. One of them I didn't talk at all. And I realized when I was filming, I was like, oh, this is why I didn't have lines. Because this guy's he doesn't talk very much. And I understand why. And yeah, so during the callback, I got very lucky with that because I was able to do so many takes where I got it like where I wanted it to be. And I did it with my dad, and then I submitted it, and then they're like, okay, here's an offer. If you'd like to take it, here it is. And then I got it. So it's pretty nice.
So, with the name of our show being Actors with Issues, as I said before, the reason we call it that is that we like to just sort of like delve into some of the issues and obstacles that young actors deal with to give insight for some other actors who want to be where you are at this point in your career. So, what comes to mind as like an obstacle or an issue that you've had to deal with that you can share some advice about?
So the number one issue I'm living through right now is how do I constantly practice acting? Um, I always have an analogy with musicians. I get very envious about musicians sometimes because they're lucky enough to just have. I mean, like I do play instruments, so I kind of understand. But they're able to just pick up their guitar and just practice. They can practice their scales, just get it as perfect as they possibly can. And of course, as an actor, there's things you could do. You can practice your monologue at home. There's voice exercises you can do. You can practice your dialect. Obviously, do all those things. Like that's very important. But as an actor, what's really important is actually working with another person.
Mm.
And that's been my biggest struggle because without an acting class or without doing a play or something like that, it feels very impossible to be very productive every single day. So I read books, I do all these things. And I realize you can't get better without working with other people. And so, I mean, I don't think I'm fully there yet. But I'm trying. Well, I guess my biggest piece of advice would be to find a mentor, an acting mentor, because they'll get you where you want to be. Whether it be a private coaching client, a private coacher, or just like a group scene study class, just do it. A workshop, anything, literally do anything. Grab your friends, write a scene, and then film it. Like literally anything is important. as long as if you work with other people, that'll get you where you want to be. Like little steps matter more, you know.
And looking ahead, what would you say is on your bucket list? Are there any like genres you haven't done that you really want to do, or do you have interest in like writing or directing in the future?
I do. Yeah, that's a very good question. I went to an arts high school, and during the pandemic, it was really hard to just even want to act at a certain point. I don't really know how to explain it. It just kind of felt like I lost like my passion for acting for like maybe I don't know a few months. Um, so during that time period, I was trying to revive it. You know, I was like, okay, what can I do? So I just kept watching like a lot of older movies, specifically Martin Scorsese. He just helped me a lot during the
Mm.
pandemic. My favorite movie from him right now is probably Raging Bull. That's still inspiring me till this day. Uh, but during pandemic, I started writing a lot of short films as much as I possibly can. I'm still writing short films, and my goal eventually is to, you know, write and direct, specifically dramas, just like Martin Scorsese did. You know,
Mm.
and especially Parasite. Oh my gosh, don't even get me started about Parasite. That stuff also sparked me. I was like, this
Yeah.
guy. I was like, Bong Joon Ho is really just going at it. Like, oh my god. Um, but yeah, so that's definitely one of my goals. And then acting wise, I really want to work with Paul Thomas Anderson one day. That would be really nice.
Mm.
I really love his work for sure. I don't know what my favorite movie from him might be. I really like Boogie Nights, but I also really like Phantom Thread. So it's just really different
Yeah.
genres. But then I guess I'm about to expose myself in front of people, but I have a guilty pleasure, which is rom coms. So I'm hoping
There's
one
nothing
day.
to be guilty about. Come on, those are great.
Hey, I guess it's just weird to be like, hey, I just really like the serious dramas, man. And be like, by the way, I like rom coms.
Right.
But yeah, I really hope to work at you know, as like one of the leads in a rom com.
Mm.
Especially since Asian dudes aren't really seen as like romantic interests. It's really rare to see that nowadays. So I hope I could be a part of changing that.
Mm. Yeah, I was actually I meant to ask. There are a few good examples. You have like Henry Golding, Randall Park was in Always Be My Maybe, and there is like so. How does it feel as a young Asian American actor to see this sort of like influx and representation and opportunity like across genres in dramas, as you said, in rom-coms, in superhero movies, in sci-fi, all of that? Like, which of those fields do you really want to go into? Like, do you want to do like actiony dramas or more like character-driven stuff?
Character driven dramas for sure.
Mm.
As an actor, I really love to watch those films where you just see a character going through something, and then I don't really know how to describe it, but there's like a certain point in a film where you watch them and they could choose one option, or there's two options, or there's many. But in my head, I see they could choose the positive way or the negative way. Usually it's a negative way, but not always. Uh, there's something about that point where I just really like enjoying. Like I don't know which part it was in Joker. I think it was like the fridge scene or something, or like the point where he was about to shoot someone. There was just something where he didn't have to shoot that person, you know,
Mm.
or he didn't have to do all these horrible things, but he did it. And it's like there's something about that that's really important to me. Like it's like why, like for what reason would this character do this, you know?
Mm.
And there's a certain reason why people write about these people and these characters, because I think that's something I really want to get into. Like I want to explore that. Like what's that about their psyche that's like that's driving them to do that, you know what I mean? Yeah. So definitely like character arc and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Especially as an actor, sometimes the script doesn't, most times the script doesn't give you their motivation or the backstory. So you have to sort of develop all of that in your preparation and trying to find reason like, why would my character do this? And it's the simple answer can't be because the script says so. It's like, it's
Exactly.
because of X, Y, and Z that I am feeling in that moment in that decision making. It's almost like, in any like a video game like Fallout where there's that moment it stops and it gives you options and you have to choose like, oh God, this is gonna affect the rest of the story. So you're
Right,
like, make
right,
the right one, but as a human, you have a second to make these decisions. So
right, right.
treating the character the same way is always really sort of exciting when you have that moment, that crossroads. It's like the
Exactly.
point of no return. You do this in the rest of the movie, and if funnily enough, if you take the other choice, it's like, well, that was a short movie. Story's over.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So before we go, we always wrap up with a non-rapid fire game. So fill in the blank. If I weren't working in the arts, I'd be.
Chef. Is that an
I'm gonna
art? Is
say,
that an art? Is
see,
that-
so that's my answer because my dad was a chef, so I grew up around like
Mm,
food and all that stuff. It is a very common answer, and I usually allow it, even though it's like culinary arts, but it's like
mm.
performing arts, you know. But
Oh, okay,
if
okay,
someone
got
was
it.
like director, I'm like, that doesn't count.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
still.
like no, no, yeah, redo.
What role have you had the most fun playing?
Orcus and She Kills Monster.
What is the best advice you've ever gotten?
That's advice. Do you mean like acting or just like life advice?
Either.
Either. Okay. That's such a good question. Honestly, as simple as it might be, just be present. I think that just applies to
Mhm.
everything. Like literally just being present is really important.
Yeah. And what's the worst advice you've ever gotten?
Worst advice. Ooh, that's an even better question. Oh,
We
shoot.
get a lot
Oh
of
god.
bad advice as actors.
I literally. Oh, I'm not gonna say who this was, but uh one of my first acting teachers, she told me to only act on emotion. So, for example, if there's this one line, she's like, "Be angry." That's like how you think of it. Like, look at every line and think of an emotion, and then try to be that emotion. Worst thing I've ever gotten because I'm still trying to get rid of that, like subconsciously.
Mhm. Hilariously, that's like the first rule I learned in drama school. Like, don't do that. Never
Right?
act on emotion.
Oh my gosh! Like,
Give
I
yourself an
remember my
action, a
second acting teacher.
verb.
Right? I was like,
Yeah,
be like, do
not an
something that's
adjective. Oof.
active, but I was like, okay, whatever.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, I hope she's not giving bad advice to people anymore.
Hope so. Also,
And lastly, in 10 words or less, what advice would you give to a young actor?
don't be too hard on yourself.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
think that's
that's a
the
very common one.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like be kind. You know, as actors, we beat ourselves up a lot.
Yeah,
You know, we're always our worst critics, so definitely be kind to yourself.
exactly. Because we always, we want to be perfect and we want to do these things. Like I have a tendency to compare myself to the best actors in the world, but it's like, how is that going to help you?
Right.
It's like you have to really just look at yourself and be like, okay, what can I do to just improve myself? Instead of just being like, okay, how can I be better than Daniel Day-Lewis? It's like you can't. You just, how can I be better than how I am right now?
Awesome. Well, Brayden, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. If folks want to give you a follow on social media or anywhere, where can they find you?
I think on all handles it would be Bray Mango, so Bray, and then the fruit, which is mango.
Awesome. And folks, you all know the drill. You can find us on Instagram at Actors with Issues. Give me a follow at Juaniala Official, and you can find more of our show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast every Monday with bonus episodes on Thursdays. You can stream the entire series of Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, now on Netflix. I'm Juaniala. This is Actors with Issues, and we'll see you next week.